Fiona's normal scream echoed through the floor. What? Wait, why? You've got to be kidding me. Hey. Addressing the computer screen, she continued. The test data. Amidst the collective dismay at her worst-case scenario statement, I sat down in front of Fiona's computer. That's the data I saw around 10 o'clock. Today, right? I asked, and Fiona nodded. Then it's all good. I smiled at Fiona. All right, on to the next one. My name's Alex. 30 years old. I was working as a researcher at a company that researches, develops, and sells health supplements and other products. However, I fell out of favor with my boss, and now I spend my days repeatedly doing walk-in sales as a salesperson. Even when you say the right things, they don't always get through to people. It's difficult, and I can't remember everything. Muttering to myself, I entered the company in front of me. At the lobby reception, I handed over my business card and informed them of my sales visit. The receptionist looked puzzled. We also produce supplements, so even if you're here for sales. With a perplexed expression directed at me, I involuntarily lowered my head. Some of your employees might find our products suitable, right? Besides, even though both are health supplements, yours focuses on bacteria like lactobacillus, while ours approach with vegetable nutrients. Is it not okay to pitch to a rival company? As I spoke, the atmosphere grew more bewildered. But despite the receptionist's confusion, she connected me to the relevant department, and I was able to meet with the responsible person. In walk-in sales, it's common to be turned away right at the doorstep. Actually, I had approached the company on a whim, not expecting much, but I was lucky to be able to meet with the person in charge unexpectedly. I was ushered into a small meeting room to wait for the contact person. In the meantime, I glanced at the supplements I intended to pitch and took out another previous product from my bag, placing it on the table. This one's safer. Although I was instructed to promote the new product, I wasn't enthusiastic. That's because the new product lacked sufficient data. I repeatedly appealed directly to my boss, but he wouldn't listen, and in the end, I was removed from my research position. I was promised a return eventually, but the document sorting department I was assigned to didn't make sense to me. In the midst of constantly updating data, I organize and arrange 5-year-old documents and staple them together. There might be situations where we need data from 5 years ago, but usually, knowing the general location is sufficient. Classifying them meticulously, stapling them, and then packing them into cardboard boxes, I was puzzled as to why this job was necessary and demanded an explanation. As a result, I was now assigned to a sales position. I understand that my colleagues must think of me as hard to deal with or a burden. However, I am speaking out with the intention of doing what I believe is right. I've carefully considered and rehearsed my words in my head before speaking. Because I've always struggled with things like this, I make an effort, but I still can't seem to do it well. When you grow up, it gets even harder. Fiona. Muttering the name of someone I fondly remember, I hung my head. Then, there was a knock at the door, followed by the sound of it opening. I stood up, extended my hand for a handshake, and introduced myself. I avoided looking at the other person's face. If I do, I get nervous and can't speak properly. Please explain the product. Upon hearing that, I launched into a detailed explanation of the product. It's a product I was involved in developing, so I'm confident and have all the features memorized. I continued to explain while looking at the product, but then she said, "You've been looking down this whole time, haven't you? Could you please lift your head? It's hard to understand, so please look me in the eye while explaining." I gulped nervously. "I'm sorry. If I look at your face, I get nervous and my explanations become clumsy, so it's better for me to stay like this until I finish explaining." As I rattled off my words as quickly as possible, the woman across from me burst out laughing. "You're still the same, huh, Lex?" Lex. That nickname has been used by only one person in my entire life. Upon hearing that name, I couldn't help but look at the woman. There stood Fiona, who used to live in the next room when I was in elementary school. Ever since I was a child, I have been an unapproachable boy. Entrails, the rustling of leaves, goldfish in a tank, flowers swaying in the wind. I was a boy who could watch them endlessly without getting bored, to the point where my mother had grown tired of it. And because of that, I had no friends. I felt that the first grade curriculum was too easy and unsatisfying. Not only that, but I was cheeky, the kind of boy who would sneer at classmates playing tag, saying it's tiring to run around and evade being caught. Even when the teacher encouraged me to play with the others, I was the kind of child who would say things like, "I don't want to because running around and trying to escape is just tiring." With an abundance of time after school, I would while away the hours gazing at insects and plants in the open area within our apartment complex. I knew this couldn't go on, but I didn't know what to do about it. As a result of my mother taking me to various hospitals, I learned that I had a higher IQ than most people, and that I naturally had more interest than others, but I struggled to get along with people. Although encouraged to take an interest in people, it wasn't something I could develop just because I was told to. Despite the adults' various attempts, I was unable to show a favorable response. That's when I met Fiona, the middle school girl who moved in next door. When I was staring intently at a caterpillar, she had somehow sat down next to me, which surprised me to the core. "Huh? What?" Finally speaking up, Fiona asked with a puzzled look, "I actually hate caterpillars, but what's interesting about them? Can you become fond of them just by watching?" I sparkled with excitement and talked endlessly about the ecology of caterpillars. She was the first person to show interest in what I was looking at. When I finished talking excitedly, Fiona laughed and said, "You're a strange kid." I flinched at the word strange, but she said, "But thanks to you, I might actually start to like caterpillars a bit. Teach me more sometime." Got up and went into the room next to mine in the apartment. I still vividly remember the pleats of her plaid skirt fluttering as she moved. After that, whenever I was idle after school, Fiona would always appear and ask me various questions. "Why don't you know anything even though you're in middle school?" Even though she said such cheeky things, Fiona would always calmly reply with, "You know too much, Lex," showing understanding of my nature. Feeling relieved that Fiona didn't take offense to my words, I inadvertently blurted out my current worries. "Fiona, you are so kind. If this were one of my friends, they'd probably be mad." Fiona looked puzzled. "Huh? Would you say something so harsh to your friends?" Lately, Fiona had come to understand my traits and would use difficult words without hesitation. I nodded in agreement. "Well then, let's practice." I was taken aback by the unexpected suggestion. "And also, you keep looking down the whole time you're explaining. When you're explaining things, Lex, it feels like I'm being taught by a machine." She even pointed out my unconscious habit. "Lex, once you learn something, you never forget it. Let's learn one good thing and one bad thing at a time, okay?" I felt sorry for taking up Fiona's time, but Fiona smiled. "If you use the time you spend watching bugs and flowers here for training, it'll be just like before." Fiona's smile was the best tonic. From then on, Fiona and I started training. Don't mention anything about appearance. Got it, remembered. Oh, but wait. Isn't saying cool or cute a compliment? Why is that not allowed? When I asked, Fiona smiled gently. For some people, that's not necessarily a compliment. Until you understand their delicate feelings, seal it. Upon hearing that, I agreed. Today at school, a friend told me, "I envy how smart you are," and I said, "Then why don't you just work harder?" Was that bad? With a wry smile, Fiona asked me, "That's no good." Wait, did you actually say that? No. I tried not to say anything when I wasn't sure. Fiona hugging me tightly. "You're amazing. You've grown so much, Lex." Is that so? Is this okay? Being embraced by Fiona made my head feel light and fuzzy. However, there were many situations where remaining silent when I didn't understand would be troublesome. In those cases, I always made sure to consult Fiona. Thanks to that, although I couldn't make friends who always played together, I was able to become me who isn't avoided by friends. Instead of mechanically saying what I thought, I made time to pause and think before speaking. Honestly, there were times when I didn't understand why something was wrong to say, and I didn't really care whether it made friends happy or sad. But I didn't want Fiona to dislike me. That feeling of not wanting to be disliked by her was very important to me. But a turning point came. Fiona's family had to move. Fiona's father was transferred frequently due to his job, usually every 3 years. This time too, the transfer order came in March, exactly 3 years later. I was about to enter 4th grade in elementary school, and Fiona would be in her 3rd year of high school. Why? That's ridiculous. It's absurd to change schools in the year of your college entrance exams. You should protest, I said, thinking it was the natural thing to do, but Fiona shook her head vigorously. The company's decision is absolute. My mind was in turmoil. I had been taught many good and bad things. This transfer order seemed like a bad thing that ignored Fiona's future. But Fiona hadn't taught me that sometimes you have no choice but to comply with bad things. When I appealed to her like that, Fiona smiled with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, I couldn't teach you that. From now on, there will be many unreasonable things, many of them. But I want you to never give up, Lex. You have a high IQ, a curiosity for things you're interested in, and many other good qualities, so don't let them go. I couldn't understand, but my mother seemed to. Fiona's family had to move frequently due to her father's job transfers, and she faced various difficulties. She might have faced unreasonable situations at school too, but Fiona always smiled in front of me and taught me various things. I didn't know what she had been enduring. Fiona moved the next day. I found out that she had kept it a secret until the last minute. I didn't understand the reason for that either. At the very least, I wanted to ask for her contact information. But my mother told me not to take up any more of Fiona's time. From now on, my mother said she would accompany me, but nothing interested me as much as my interactions with Fiona. And my mother didn't ask me questions as enthusiastically as before, so my understanding of people regressed. However, I had memories of interacting with Fiona. Relying on those memories, I managed to survive until now. There were times when things seemed hopeless, but Fiona's words of never give up supported me somewhere in my heart. So, now, even though I was pushed out of my research position and assigned to sales, I endured until I could return to research. You still can look at people's faces when explaining, "Oh, but isn't that impossible for sales?" When Fiona asked me a perfectly natural question, I easily explained my current situation to her. Fiona sighed. "You're still as clumsy as ever," she said, and I hung my head. I thought I was doing well, but it wasn't going well. "Hey, why don't you come work for our company?" I widened my eyes at Fiona's words. "I'm currently the project leader for a supplement under development. I've been wanting a talented researcher." I was puzzled. "Huh? Fiona, are you in a research position?" Fiona nodded when I asked her. "Thanks to you, Lex, I've become good at biology." I was dumbfounded. "Then why are you dealing with walk-in sales?" Fiona chuckled at my flustered reaction. "I happened to be in a meeting with another department when the receptionist brought me your business card with a perplexed look on her face. I recognized your name, so I told them I'd handle it and came out here. They were happy to send me off, saying I could deal with the troublesome person from a rival company doing walk-in sales." I was even more confused. "That's right, you're a rival company, so I can't transfer. There's a non-compete clause." Fiona interrupted my words. "I'll make sure to follow the rules properly." Her strong words left me momentarily speechless. 1 month had passed since then. I was now conducting research on fungi under Fiona's guidance. I enjoyed observing insects and plants with the naked eye, but I also loved looking at various microorganisms under a microscope. This workplace was like heaven for me. I diligently handled the incoming inspection requests one after another. As I thought, "Your intelligence is still intact." Fiona smiled. Miss Fiona, it's thanks to you," I said, stopping myself from calling her Fiona accidentally. Fiona would smile wryly every time. "Thanks for talking to my previous company." Actually, the day after I went walk-in sales, Fiona immediately talked to the company on my behalf. The upper management furrowed their brows a bit, but they placed importance on the fact that the research subjects were slightly different and that they could unload me, a burdensome employee. They readily approved my job change. I had mixed feelings about it, but then I overheard an executive let slip. "Actually, unless the current director resigns, we wouldn't have been able to reinstate him as a researcher." Hearing that, I was truly grateful for my reunion with Fiona. I was made to sign a contract just in case, but none of them seemed likely to be violated by me, so I was relieved. And so, before I knew it, I had quit my previous job, used up my paid leave, and started working at the company where Fiona was. Since Fiona had explained my characteristics in advance, there were some communication issues, but they were minor. My colleagues were all kind, and they admired me for my diligent research. One day, Fiona's normal scream echoed through the floor. What? Wait, why? You've got to be kidding me. Hey. Addressing the computer screen, she continued. What a meaningless call. A waste of vocal cords. Without saying anything like that, I waited with my colleagues for Fiona's next words. The test data. It's gone. At the worst possible announcement, everyone in the room starts to murmur. Could it be restored? Was there a backup? As everyone raised their voices with these questions, I headed towards Fiona's computer with my colleagues. I don't know. Restore it. I think it'll take some time. And as for the backup, although we were instructed to take backups regularly, I often neglected it due to my obsession with daily research. I'm sorry, I only have the one from 2 days ago, before I left work. Fiona regretted it, but my colleagues breathed a sigh of relief. Only one full day's worth of data from yesterday and this morning was lost. They probably thought they could manage somehow. However, we finally got good data. Fiona bowed deeply to us, apologizing for missing the backup while she was absorbed in research. I'm sorry. I'll try my best again to make it a good result. As Fiona said that, slipping past her side, I sat down in front of her computer. Lex, no, Alex, what are you doing? Fiona asked. I replied while typing on the keyboard. That's the data I saw around 10 o'clock today, right? Fiona was humming, as if recalling something. Oh, yeah, I remember now. Because the results were good, I asked you, Alex, to reproduce the same results using a similar method. That's what I showed you. Relieved by Fiona's answer, I said. Then I remember everything. I was focused, without any consideration for words. Huh? Fiona and my colleagues were surprised by my words. I can remember things I've seen once. Just like a camera. It's burned into my mind. It seems like the others don't have this ability. I spoke in a matter-of-fact tone as I typed in the data I remembered. While everyone was speechless, I finished entering the data. Doan. Is this okay? Fiona stared at the numbers on the data. Oh, this? Yes, this result was good. Oh, and here too. It's fragmented, but I think it's correct. I grumbled. How rude. When I say I remember it, I remember it. Fiona ruffled my head. That brought me back to my senses. I was concentrating. I might have said something wrong. My face turned pale. When I concentrate on something else, I tend to neglect my words. As I timidly looked at my colleagues, they were all smiling. Words like amazing, genius, and savior were used to praise me. I widened my eyes. Then, Fiona started massaging my head. I didn't know you had this ability. Isn't your head tired? It must be tough. But thank you. Your help was greatly appreciated. We'll still request the restoration of the original data just in case, but it doesn't mean we don't trust you, Alex, so rest assured. I nodded slightly as Fiona massaged my head. Her massage felt so good, enveloping my head in a pleasantly fuzzy sensation. Since you helped me, what do you want in return? The pleasant sensation made my thoughts wander from my head. Then, marry me. My sudden confession caused a stir among those around us. Huh? At Fiona's scream, I realized I had made another blunder. Oh, sorry. It just felt so good, and I blurted it out. But it's not a lie. I've liked Fiona since childhood. Interesting my dazed head to my body and mouth, I let my mouth run freely. Fiona suddenly stopped massaging my head. It's during working hours. Being scolded by Fiona, I came back to my senses. Oh, right. Work hours. During work, we work. Yay, that's right. I'm sorry. Still feeling a bit fuzzy-headed, I returned to my desk, pounding my head. From the situation around me, I gradually understood that I had blurted out something outrageous. But my feelings were satisfied. The first and last love of mine, whom I had wanted to confess to but couldn't, had been told my feelings. The result didn't matter. I was satisfied with having expressed my feelings. The workday came to an end. I finished my work, clocked out, and waited for Fiona to finish her work. Perhaps feeling uneasy, my other colleagues, even those who usually stayed over time, left quickly. I waited patiently for Fiona to finish, but she showed no signs of leaving. I approached Fiona's desk step by step. "Hey, you're done already, aren't you?" As I asked, Fiona slowly turned her face towards me and showed a forced smile, saying, "Caught, huh?" Then she clocked out. Following her, I said to Fiona, "You don't have to worry about it." Fiona furrowed her eyebrows at my words. "Just because you said you would do anything doesn't mean you have to marry me." "Sorry. It just slipped out." Fiona blushed. "But you're not lying about liking me, right?" hesitantly asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I like you. But marrying you would be like a punishment. Even if I were Fiona, it'd still be impossible." Tears welled up in Fiona's eyes, and she began to cry. "You idiot. Why would you say that?" Although Fiona cried for me, I didn't feel the same intense emotion. I don't understand people's feelings. Even now, I don't know why you're crying, Fiona. But I don't want you to cry. I want you to smile. That's why the person for you isn't me. Yeah, I get it. I nodded, trying to convince myself. I felt a twinge in my chest. Fiona hugged me. "If you say marrying me is a punishment or that I'm not the right one for you, then don't confess." Being embraced by Fiona, I once again felt that pleasant sensation enveloping me. Sorry. Was it wrong to confess? But my head felt fuzzy, and it just came out naturally. I couldn't stop it. Fiona shook her head vigorously. "No, Lex, you need to start liking yourself more. Stop talking about yourself like that." Even though she said that, I felt puzzled. It's troubling even if you say that. I don't like myself. I hate myself for being unable to fit in with others. I hate myself for being so inflexible. Fiona trembled. Then, it's a punishment for me to marry someone like me. I couldn't understand Fiona's words at all. When we trained together every day, I wasn't fitting in with the class, not joining any clubs, and having no friends. I was acting all high and mighty, training you, but I was also a girl who struggled with socializing. I trained with you to distract myself from feeling lonely. It's terrible, isn't it? She explained that every time she moved due to her father's job, she tried to make friends, but she got tired of making and losing close friends repeatedly. Especially when she moved next to me in middle school. It was a sensitive time, so she gave up trying to make friends. There, by chance, was me, an elementary school student struggling with social interactions. Fiona explained that she had trained with me to comfort her own feelings. It doesn't matter what the reason or the trigger was. At that time, I needed you, Fiona. If you hadn't been there, I probably would have become an even worse adult. So I was lucky that you moved in next to me at that time. That doesn't justify saying marrying you is a punishment game. Fiona chuckled softly through her teary voice. Why do you think I'm still unmarried at 38? It's because I'm always focused on work and have no charm. A 30-year-old marrying a 38-year-old woman is a punishment game in itself, isn't it? I tilted my head. Why would it be a punishment because of the age difference? Oh, because of wrinkles and skin. Don't worry about that. Before I could finish, I was smacked on the back. One of the things you must never say to a woman. Remember that. Feeling a tingling sensation on my back, I replied. Don't say anything about wrinkles or skin to a woman. Yeah, got it. After saying that, Fiona laughed. It's nostalgic. Her tone softened. But I just really like Fiona, you know. Fiona isn't a punishment. Absolutely not, I said. Fiona smiling gently. Then, since we both think it's a punishment game, why don't we try dating each other? My heart suddenly started pounding, and Fiona laughed. The heart is honest, isn't it? Her laughter was irresistibly cute, and it made my heart pound even more. A few days later, the data Fiona lost was successfully restored and returned. The numbers matched perfectly with the data I had restored from memory, surprising everyone. As I struggled to find the right words, Fiona laughed. Everyone finds it funny how you talk when you're concentrating. So, you don't have to worry too much about being complicated here. Her words made me look at my colleagues. They all looked at me with smiles. It was a sight I had never seen before. I felt like I might cry a little. Unable to explain this feeling well, I lowered my head and nodded once. Everyone laughed again. Their laughter was not mocking. Once again, my whole body felt light and fuzzy. A few years later, Fiona and I got married. I understood what Fiona meant when she said I lacked charmless when we started dating. When Fiona got busy with work, she got absorbed in it. The amount of conversation and food she ate decreased, and she would quickly go to sleep. However, for me, it was a sign that Fiona is busy with work, so I didn't need attention or feel anxious. We worked at the same place, so there was no problem with the timing of when work got busy. The age difference didn't bother me either. Fiona was 8 years older, but she was cute, and even when she became an old wrinkled granny, she would still be cute. Oops, I shouldn't have mentioned wrinkles to a woman, but is it okay to think it in my mind? Anyway, Fiona was still an attractive woman, not a punishment. I'm not really good at understanding other people's feelings, but Fiona is the only one who understood me. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for her, but whenever Fiona isn't busy with work, she always has a smile on her face. I just need to believe in that smile. Until a little while ago, I was doing work I didn't want to do at all and living a life where people avoided me. But now, I'm doing a job I love, with the woman I love, and share my life with her. Sometimes, my colleagues ask if it's suffocating to work and live together. I always shake my head without hesitation. Being with Fiona all the time makes me the happiest person in the world. I want to continue being the man who can always be by Fiona's side.